She thought she could humiliate her husband and return like nothing happened. But when the truth came out, on camera, in court, and in front of her boss, her smile vanished. His silence wasn't weakness. It was the calm before the perfect revenge. Let's begin. The morning Danielle destroyed our marriage didn't begin with a fight. It began with a smoothie. Banana, spinach, almond butter, oat milk. The same routine. Same kitchen. Same sunlight falling across the counter like it did every Tuesday. But the woman who stood across from me, curled hair, glossed lips, lashes thick with something that wasn't routine, was not the Danielle I married 12 years ago. And I think that realization hit me somewhere between her second scoop of almond butter and the moment she set the blender down without a word. "I'm tired of this," she said suddenly, casually, like it was about the smoothie. But it wasn't. Her voice wasn't angry. It was bored, like she was talking about a show that got too repetitive. Her eyes didn't lift to meet mine. She just poured the green liquid into her glass and took a sip. I blinked, still waking up, shirt half-tucked, my usual work-from-home joggers wrinkled to the knees. "Tired of what?" I asked, though I already knew this wasn't about breakfast. She turned then, finally, with a look I hadn't seen in years, cool, calculated, detached. "This, all of this. Me, you, the house, the routine. We're stuck, Owen." I stared at her, trying to find a crack in her expression. Something real. Something that said she was being dramatic or joking. But she was already on her phone, typing something. "I talked to Brooke and Ryan. Remember them?" she asked. I nodded stiffly. "Your Pilates friend and her husband?" She smiled. "They're going away this weekend. Just the four of us. We booked a resort. It's adult only. It's about connection. Breaking walls. Spicing things up." Something about the way she said spicing made my stomach turn. I set my coffee down slowly. "I'm sorry. What exactly are you saying right now?" Danielle didn't flinch. She leaned against the island counter, as if this was just another errand to check off. "We're leaving the kids with my parents Friday. You and I are going on a getaway. With Brooke and Ryan. They've done this before. It's not weird. It's freeing." "Freeing?" I repeated. "You mean like wife swapping?" She rolled her eyes and took another sip. "Don't be crude." I took a deep breath, my pulse rising. "You want to sleep with another man. In a bed we didn't even choose together. At a resort I never agreed to. While someone else babysits our children. It's one weekend, Owen. It's not about sleeping around. It's about liberation." My hands curled around the edge of the table. "And if I say no?" She shrugged. "Then I'll go alone." And just like that, she walked out of the room. Not a single word about the kids. Not a glance back. I stood there for a while, alone in the silence, surrounded by the smell of the coffee I no longer wanted and the breakfast I'd forgotten to eat. My chest tightened, not from heartbreak, but from a cold, quiet clarity. This wasn't a midlife crisis. This was betrayal, premeditated and rehearsed. But if Danielle thought I was going to sob in silence while she played her games in some overpriced coastal suite, she didn't know me at all. She wasn't the only one making plans that weekend. She just didn't know hers had already been watched, traced, recorded, and set up for a fall. Danielle left on Friday like a woman reborn. She wore a loose white linen shirt tied to the waist, the kind she hadn't touched since our honeymoon in the Keys, paired with high-rise jeans and wedges that made her walk like she was 25 again. Her suitcase, a rose gold carry-on I bought her last Christmas, was already by the door when I came downstairs. She didn't ask me to help carry it. She didn't say goodbye properly to the kids either. Just kissed our son on the head, told our daughter to be good for Grandma, and breezed through the foyer like she was headed to a weekend spa and not a four-way tryst with another man. With her keys already dangling from her fingers, she paused only to glance back at me. "Try not to be dramatic while I'm gone, Owen," she said with a smile too sharp to be friendly. "This is good for us." And then she was gone. I stood at the living room window and watched the SUV back out of the driveway. A gust of wind kicked up leaves across the yard, and in that second, the silence inside our house felt like a vacuum, deep and cold. But I didn't collapse. I didn't scream. I didn't break anything. I went back upstairs, closed the door to our bedroom, opened my laptop, and started watching her phone. 2 weeks earlier, I'd quietly mirrored her phone's activity to mine using a software tool that I learned about during a cybersecurity contract. I told her I was installing a family safety app. She laughed and told me to have fun being paranoid. Now, That paranoia had become my power. At 4:15 p.m., Danielle texted Brooke. "We're here. Richard's already at the bar. This place is insane. So private. Richard, not Ryan." So that was it. Brooke wasn't even real. She had lied again. And yet I wasn't surprised. I'd already found out about Richard Callahan 3 weeks ago, when her iCloud accidentally synced a series of messages that had no business being on a married woman's phone. Messages like, "Can't wait to finally touch you without sneaking around. This weekend will be ours. Just us. No guilt." Richard was a regional sales manager from Columbus. Married, 2 kids, lived in a suburban duplex, and, according to his wife Valerie, had been coming home late for work events 3 times a week. When I called Valerie, she didn't scream. She cried, quietly. Then she asked me to send screenshots. I did. She asked if I'd help her ruin him. I agreed. That's how this revenge began, with 2 betrayed spouses, one shared goal, and a plan that would ruin their weekend long before they ever unpacked. By the time Danielle and Richard arrived at the upscale resort nestled on the edge of Lake Michigan, I had already booked a suite on the floor directly above theirs, under a false name, using a prepaid card and an alias email. Valerie paid for the room and brought her brother along to check in for me, just in case someone recognized my face. I brought no beachwear, no sandals, no vacation in mind, just a duffel bag with 2 high-definition mini cameras, a parabolic microphone, 1 remote sync device to access Danielle's mirrored phone camera, 2 pre-labeled flash drives, a written log of every lie she had told for the past 4 months. From room 312, I could see her suite door, 314. Through the hallway security feed, I bribed a resort staffer to mirror onto my monitor. I watched Danielle and Richard giggle like teenagers, toast with champagne, and embrace on the balcony like they were starring in someone else's romance movie. They didn't know room 314 was wired. They didn't know her phone was streaming to my laptop. They didn't know Valerie was parked 4 blocks away, waiting for my signal. They had no clue that their little escape was about to become evidence. I didn't feel guilt. I didn't feel sorrow. I felt something sharper, satisfaction. Because this wasn't just revenge. It was justice. Filmed, dated, time-stamped. And when that footage finally surfaced, their lives would never be the same. Sunday morning arrived like a hangover, drenched in quiet tension and swollen consequences. Danielle came home that evening, still glowing from the lake air and whatever fantasy she'd been living inside for the past 48 hours. Her tan looked artificial, her laugh too rehearsed. She walked through the front door like nothing had happened, as if she'd just run out to grab a bottle of wine and not spend the weekend in bed with another man. "Kids asleep?" she asked, kicking off her wedges and heading straight to the fridge. I said nothing, just nodded. She didn't notice the camera I had hidden on the shelf above the cabinet, or that I'd recorded her entrance, or that I'd already sent out the first package an hour before she walked in. She poured herself a glass of rose and flopped onto the couch. "You okay?" she asked me, almost with pity. "You've been quiet." "I'm good," I said. "Just processing." She smiled like I was a puppy who didn't understand the world. "It was just a weekend, Owen. We needed this." I feel rejuvenated. I walked over, sat across from her, and forced a thin smile. "Glad you had fun." She didn't catch the edge of my voice, but the trap had already been triggered. The first flash drive had landed on a dark mahogany desk at her firm's legal ethics committee. It was addressed to Lynn Travers, Director of Professional Conduct. The footage showed Danielle and Richard, half-dressed, kissing in a hotel suite, toasting with champagne while discussing how clueless their spouses were. But the real fire came from her own mouth. "Owen still thinks I'm going to Pilates. I haven't done a crunch in weeks. We need to make this monthly. Honestly, this is the only time I feel alive. If I lose my job because of this, at least I'll know I went down doing what I love." I timed it so they'd open the drive on Monday morning. Flash drive 2 went to Valerie, Richard's wife. She deserved to know who her husband really was, in high definition. And Valerie, she wasn't the sit and cry type. She was the burn your life down kind. She promised me she wouldn't hold back. But the third flash drive, that one was for Danielle. And I didn't mail it. I handed it to her. It was Tuesday when she finally found it. A small black USB nestled inside a white gift box on the kitchen counter. It was labeled in red ink, "Play Me." She picked it up, frowning. "What's this?" "A backup," I said, "for your memories." She didn't understand until she plugged it into her laptop and hit play. The screen came alive with the hotel suite. Suite 314. Her and Richard kissing, laughing, tearing off clothes like they were living inside a secret music video. Her voice clear, his face unmistakable, every second time-stamped, every moment documented. And then came the audio, their bedroom whispers broadcast in perfect stereo. Danielle's hand flew to her mouth. What is this?" she choked. "I think you know," I said, my voice calm. "You lied to me, to your kids, to your firm. And now, this is your story, unedited." She turned, eyes wide. "You bugged me." "No," I replied. "You bugged yourself. I just listened." Tears welled up in her eyes. But it was too late, because that same hour, her phone lit up with a message from HR. "Danielle, you are required to appear before the Professional Review Board. Allegations have been raised concerning your conduct during a client-linked retreat. Immediate response required." She read the words once, twice, then dropped the phone like it burned. Danielle ran upstairs to call Richard. Voicemail. Again, nothing. And slowly, she realized the weekend she thought would give her power had taken everything instead. Her job, her reputation, her marriage, slipping through her fingers like lake water. I didn't gloat. I didn't even smile. I just stood there, watching her begin to understand. This wasn't about catching her in a lie. It was about making her live in the truth. And we weren't even at the finale yet. By Friday, the fallout began to snowball. The partners at Danielle's firm didn't call her into a quiet office. They summoned her in front of a full committee. 6 of them. Suits. Cold stares. Printed transcripts from a flash drive in their hands. They didn't yell. They just asked questions. About ethics. About inappropriate client interactions. About using firm resources for personal excursions. Danielle tried to deny it. She said it was taken out of context. She said she was set up. But then they played the tape. Full screen. Crystal clear. Her face. Her voice. Her lover. Her lies. When the screen faded to black, the silence in the room was louder than any accusation. By Monday, she was placed on unpaid suspension pending termination review. Her company email was frozen. Her badge was deactivated. The woman who once stood confidently at the front of every boardroom was now scrambling to write an apology letter to HR, begging for a second chance. At home, things were even worse. Danielle's parents, once so smug and condescending toward me, showed up unannounced. Her mother's hand shook as she held the flash drive I'd sent. "We didn't know," she whispered. "We thought she was just restless. She was reckless," I said, "and now she's radioactive." Her father didn't speak at all, just looked at me with the kind of regret you can't dress in words. The kind of regret that only comes when the daughter you raise turns out to be someone you don't recognize. Meanwhile, Valerie, the other betrayed spouse in this twisted opera, didn't waste time. She moved out of the house she shared with Richard, filed for divorce within 48 hours, and posted a 2-minute clip from the footage on her private social media with one caption. "This is the man who promised me forever. Watch him ruin it in real time." The video exploded. Within 24 hours, Richard's employer, already warned by a confidential tip, called a mandatory ethics meeting. By the next week, he was out of job, served with restraining orders, and temporarily banned from seeing his own children. And Danielle? She collapsed. Not all at once, but piece by piece. The friend she once bragged to suddenly went quiet. Her Pilates group chat muted her. Her boss blocked her number. Even the neighbors began to look the other way when she walked down the sidewalk. Then came the letters. At first, they were defensive. "I made a mistake, but you didn't have to go this far." Then desperate. "I miss you. I need my family. We can rebuild. Please, Owen." And finally, shattered. "I don't sleep. I don't eat. I don't know who I am without this life." I read every letter, then threw them in a drawer and locked it, because her pain wasn't my responsibility anymore. The kids, however, they thrived. Without her constant stress, judgment, and dismissiveness, our home felt lighter. We laughed again, cooked dinner together, played Monopoly on Friday nights without anyone checking a phone mid-roll. My son started reading novels. My daughter began painting. As for me, I started sleeping better, waking up with clarity instead of dread. I reconnected with old friends, began running again, Even picked up my guitar from the closet, dusty from years of neglect. Life didn't just resume. It reinvented itself. One quiet, steady day at a time. And all the while, Danielle kept trying to claw her way back in. Voicemails. Late night knocks on the door. A text at 2:04 a.m. I ruined everything. Please, don't make me live in silence. But I didn't need to say anything. Because silence was exactly what she gave me when I needed her most. Now, it was her turn to feel what silence really sounded like. It was a Thursday morning, gray skies, light drizzle, the kind that makes you want to stay in and let the world spin without you. I just finished packing the kids' lunches when I heard a knock at the door. Not the usual rhythm of the mailman or neighbor. This one was hesitant, paused, nervous. I opened it. There she was, Danielle, hair tied back messily, no makeup, hoodie too big for her frame, eyes red, skin pale, not from cold, but from sleepless nights and broken pride. She didn't speak right away, just stood there with her hands tucked into the sleeves of her sweatshirt like a child. I don't know where else to go, she whispered. I lost my job. They're finalizing termination. I had to move out of the apartment. I held the doorframe and said nothing. I thought I wanted more, she continued, voice cracking. I thought I needed something different, something exciting. But it wasn't real. Richard lied. Everyone disappeared the second things went south. Still, I didn't speak. I miss our life, she said. I miss the kids. I miss you. I was stupid. So stupid. My grip tightened around the edge of the door. Not out of anger, just to stay grounded. Her words floated like echoes from a past I no longer lived in. I'm not asking for everything back, she said, wiping tears away with her sleeve. Just a chance to talk. Maybe have coffee. I'll stay outside if you want. For a long moment, I looked at her, and for the first time in months, I felt absolutely nothing. Not rage, not hurt, not desire, not nostalgia, just peace. Because I had already buried that part of my life. Not in bitterness, but with closure. I stepped forward, calm, certain. Danielle, I said quietly, the only thing I ever wanted was a life with honesty, with trust, with someone who didn't see me as routine. She nodded, mouth trembling. You had that. You threw it away, and you did it smiling. She looked down. Rain began to dust the concrete around her. You don't get to walk back in just because the house you ran to is on fire now. She met my eyes, pleading. So that's it. I nodded. That's it. Then I stepped back, gently closed the door, and locked it. Not out of cruelty, but out of self-respect. Months later, the kids and I moved to a smaller house, a cozy rental with creaky floors and old wallpaper that somehow felt more like home than the last place ever did. It didn't have vaulted ceilings or granite countertops, but it had something we hadn't known in years. Peace. They slept better. I laughed more. I started writing again, journaling, playing my guitar, breathing fully. One day at the park, my daughter asked, "Are we happier now, Dad?" I smiled. Yeah, we are. The real revenge wasn't public humiliation. It wasn't getting her fired. It wasn't sending tapes or confronting her parents. It was this, waking up each day without her name weighing down my chest, being truly happy, and knowing she had to watch it all from the outside, through a glass wall of her own design. She texted one last time. I see your smile again. I ruined it once. I'll never forgive myself for that. I didn't reply, because I didn't need to. Some messages aren't meant to be answered. They're meant to sit, unopened, undelete, like gravestones on a life you'll never revisit.